I thought we'd take our books outside today, like we used to do when we were at school and it was nice weather, because it's a nice day here. And I'm going to talk about running, and one of the reasons we decided to combine the YouTube channels again, to combine running and cycling, and also one of the reasons that we have a coaching business that combines running and cycling, is that because there are lots of similarities. There are lots of differences as well, but there are lots in the basic principles. There are lots of similarities. One of my favourite books is this one, which is the one I brought outside, and I'm not getting it in shot. Complete Middle Distance Runner, and I don't think it's in print anymore, unfortunately. But what it talks about is it's a really thin book, as you can see, and you could read it in a day. And it gives you it gives you some really quite simple guidelines to train to. It was before the days of heart rate monitors, GPS, and I mean they did have watches in those days. And I think we knew that the Earth was round or spherical. Oh, this is Claire back from a bread shopping trip. It's moving very slowly, probably because she did some hard intervals this morning. The theme for today is what we've learned from running. I was just showing them this book, my favourite book, but maybe not one. So when I started coaching Karen Darke, and I started cycling, because I did a lot of running, and then I got injured and decided to try cycling, and I had a brief interlude talking about triathlon. Not talking about triathlon, doing triathlon. I found that most of the books about cycling training in those days were by tour pros, people who'd won the Tour de France, like Greg LeMond, Bernardino, how they trained and how cyclists should train. But not everybody does grand tours. I didn't really realise that these things were really designed for doing major tours or for elite cyclists. And so I thought, well, I wonder what happens if I train like a runner. So I just started training on my way to work and back. I did 2 30-minute rides. I tried to get in my endurance training zone, and then I started doing intervals based on this, what's in here, Frank Howell's 5-pace system, and I started getting better. And then when I started coaching Karen Darke, I thought, well, I'll just use that system, and I just used this 5-pace system for cycling, and it worked really well. And she got her goal was to get to London to do to get in the British team for the Paralympics, and she got a silver medal. And then, using very similar training, she got a gold medal in Rio. That's why we combine running and cycling, and it's not the same. There's a lot more technology nowadays, but it's relevant. You're all right. You seem to be squeaking.
No, it's just my asthma played up a bit on that.
All right. Okay. So have you learnt anything from running? Have you got any similar stories?
Well, I'm just thinking, that year I was really injured, and I was doing, because I couldn't run, was doing those turbo sessions that you set me, which fucking hurt. Yeah. But they got me really fit. I mean, I came back, I did that Mont Genèvre, and I won it.
Yeah.
So,
what's Mont Genèvre?
It's a sky race in just outside Chamonix.
Mont Genèvre, in the place. Yeah.
I think running, particularly trail running, but I think running and cycling are really compatible. And I think, as well, for cross training, I think it's a really good way to, if you like being outdoors and you like doing lots of stuff, but you're finding you're picking up a lot of niggles by maybe running twice a day, combining it with the cycling. Yeah,
well, a lot of the runners you coach do a lot of cycling, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
To build the volume, that works really well with ultra trail type events.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Claire's gone to make hopefully maybe she's going to make some lunch for us. Anyway, I think it's probably worth explaining the 5-pace system, and if you want to use that, then it really works effectively as part of the polarised training. That's what I found anyway. So you might, even before the days of Stephen Seiler, well, not before the days of Stephen Seiler, because he's about the same age as I am, people were effectively doing polarised training in this 5-pace system that Frank Howell came up with. And so all the 5-pace system is, you've got your 800 metre pace, 1500 metre pace, 3000 metre pace and 5000 metre pace, and obviously you can use the principles to go longer, and if you assume that about 60 seconds a lap, which is 400 metres, then then you've got a basis for doing all your interval sessions. You're planning all your interval sessions. If you want to get better at your, for instance, if you want to get better at your 5-minute pace, might be around about your 1500 metre pace. You remember it's all a bit rough and ready endurance sport. It's not as precise as people like to think. Your FTP moves every day, and if you get really tired, if you have a really hard 3-week block, then your FTP will go down, and then when you have a rest, it'll go up again, probably a bit higher than it was before if you've trained sensibly and recovered properly. So if you want to improve your 5 minutes power, your 1500 metre pace, then do some efforts at a bit above 1500 metre pace, so 800 metre pace, and 3000 metre pace. So and to establish what these paces are, then do some time trials. So your 800 metre pace might be your best 2-minute power, your 1500 metre pace might be your best 4 or 5 minute power, and your 3000 9 minutes, 5000 15 minutes, and 10,000 30 minutes, or round about your FTP, or just a bit above perhaps. And then you've got these paces or powers. If you're using a power meter, it works really well for power, and you can use these powers to set your sessions. So you want to be doing maybe 1.5 times to 3 times the total duration of the pace. So if you were doing a 3000 metre pace, 9-minute tight pace, then you'd be looking to do 15 to 25 minutes of hard work. So the recoveries are also set in this sort of quite nicely modular system. So your 1500 metre pace is you have the same duration of recovery as you do of your effort. So a 1500 metre pace session might be 8 by 1 minute with 1 minute's recovery. And then in the 3000 metre pace you have half the duration of recovery. In 5000 metres you have a quarter of the duration of your recovery. And the way that's really designed is that if you were, it's really designed to work on a running track, where you do your 400 metres in round about a minute, and your recoveries, if you were to do a recovery lap at these elite levels, you'd be doing your 400 metres in about 2 minutes, so about 8 minutes per mile. So it's not walking, it's proper. The recoveries are supposed to be continuous, and it's a partial recovery, because you're really running such an aerobic sport. The training is focused on just building your threshold, a bit of anaerobic content for this sort of, you're building your FTP, building your 5-minute powers and your 2-minute powers. But the 5-pace system isn't going to work for you if you're trying to build up your anaerobic capacity, because you need to be more anaerobic for that to work. And that's perhaps where cycling and running diverge a bit, because there are very few anaerobic elements in running. So although both running and cycling can be incredibly complicated, what I found is that this simple 5-pace system is an amazingly effective way to train. If you're not racing highly variable events like mountain bike cross country, cyclocross, criteriums, and to a lesser extent road racing, this is basically all you need. And if you are racing those events, then it's going to get you 90% of where you need to be, because they're still pretty much aerobic, and you just need these nuances of anaerobic capacity to sort of mix in as you get closer to your event, or if it's a fundamental requirement, you have to start them earlier in your season. So that's it. Just train like a runner from the 1970s and 80s, and you'll be an amazing cyclist. And I'm not joking. It'll work for you. See you in the next one. Bye.